Hello everyone. If you saw my previous Mustang video, you know I'm getting my 1966 Mustang ready to pass inspection and put back on the road after years of sitting in storage. This time around I'll be working on more inspection items on the list, like the headlight, high-low beam switch, the windshield wiper washer, and a rusted out fuel line I discovered after moving the car into the garage. There's a lot more work to do, so let's get started.
As I happen to be working under here anyway, I noticed I've got a leak. There's a fuel leak here somewhere, and it's not up here by where this hose clamp is. It's down below here somewhere. And this tube is actually very wet, and it definitely smells like gasoline. So that's a steel fuel line, and it's obviously rusted through at some point, so I'm going to have to replace some section of that. In order to get this car through inspection. So here's where the new fuel line starts. I just put in a new piece of steel 5/16 tube to replace the rusty one. I think that was actually a piece of brake line, goes all the way down there. I bent it under there and joined it up here with a compression fitting. Butted the ends together and joined them with a compression fitting. So this dimmer switch, this is the switch for the dimmer light. Back in the 60s, cars had these foot pedals, 50s and 60s. It's corroded. It sticks down, so that's not going to work when you're going down the road. You need to be able to have that thing return every time when you hit it with your foot. High beam, low beam. So it looks like I'm going to have to pull the carpet up here and pull this kick panel out to be able to pull the carpet so I can get to the switch.
I removed the door sill by removing a half dozen screws to allow the aftermarket kick panel to pull out. That was the only thing holding it in.
That speaker wire just pulled apart. As long as I'm under here, yeah, it looks pretty solid under there. I wonder why there's spray foam in here. That's funny. Let's find out if this wiper washer bag actually holds fluid. I don't know if the wiper washer is an inspection item. I'm guessing it probably is. And I would like to have this working either way, so. Ooh, it's leaking right out a crack at the top of the bag. It's not holding fluid. I think. Well, maybe it is. Huh, it's running down from somewhere. These bags are kind of a joke. I think I'm going to need a new one. It seems to be holding a little bit, but I think I'm going to need a new one. Oh, as I'm pouring it in, it's pouring right out because the neck on here is torn out the back. All right. Well, it's got a natural overflow on it, spilling out the back. And I really didn't need to fill it that far just to see if the washer motor works. Well, let's give it a try. Key on. Doesn't seem to be doing anything. Okay, so there's a red and a black wire coming to this little washer pump. I'm going to hook test lead on that. Here's a test light. This test light has a little voltmeter in it, so we can see if that's going to come on or not. So I just wasn't familiar with how this switch works. And what it is you have to turn the wipers on first and then pull out the knob and you'll see voltage there. Okay, there it is. Hopefully the camera can see it and you can see it. The wiper arms are moving back and forth just fine. I think maybe all we need there is a little bit of lubrication. These have some splices that are the type that penetrate the insulation. The two wires that go to this little pump are penetrating the original circuit conductors. And maybe we just don't have a good connection. I mean, that's possible. So let me strip that out. These have to be redone, so I'm going to take them out anyway. The red one really wasn't good. Oh, these are little amp connectors. I just got that wire out of there. Strip it off on the end. Oh, can't squeeze that bag. Red goes to 12 volts on the battery, black goes to ground. And that little pump is not doing the thing. Okay, I've got to replace that. So I need a new wiper washer pump and a new wiper washer fluid bag, reservoir bag. I'm going to see if they have a more modern version, maybe a plastic container. Or maybe I'll make my own, because the bag is really low capacity. It's lucky if it's got more than a pint in there. Now I've got to see if I can recover this fluid. Yep. It's trickling out very slowly, but it's trickling out. I have to look up some parts, see what I can do. That's probably the original one to the car, who knows. That little pump motor actually works. I connected it directly to the battery. So I'll check the 12 volts to here again, and if that works I need to find a connector that will work with that I can put on that little pump. Let's try this one.
Notice the red LED pulses on and off.
Okay, that's the hot, that's the 12 volts there. Okay, when I hooked this pump up to the battery directly, it ran. So I think it does run. And it was the problem I had down here was probably just due to a bad connection. So I'm gonna jumper the leads and try again with the dashboard switch.
I'm hooking the ground jumper to the harness ground connection point.
Okay, we'll see if it runs.
It kind of runs, but acts strangely overall. There's something going on here. What the heck? It's almost like the circuit is pulsing the pump. You classic Mustang guys know that's what it's doing. Goofy. But why did it stop working? Something's intermittent.
That seems a little intermittent. So is it in the wiring or the switch, or is it in the pump? I think it's in the wiring or the switch. Let's see. I'll jumper this pump directly to the battery now, and we'll see if it runs consistently. Yeah, it does. So there may be a problem in the switch, I'm guessing.
This was a little more difficult to isolate because there was actually less than 12 volts at the pump. The wiper motor contact is intermittent, and guess what? The pump itself is also intermittent. There are 3 critical problems with this system.
Now we'll try that again. So it's actually not intermittent. It sounds like it's pulsing. I bet if we look at the voltage on the circuit, it's pulsing. It seems to be pulsing with the action of the windshield wipers. I'll have to look at the schematic and see how that's wired in.
So let's have a look at this circuit. Here's the wiper switch. I have a 2-speed wiper system. Here's the wiper washer pump, and there's the firewall connector. Power wire 941 from the switch. And the other side of the pump is wire number 57, which goes into the wiper motor assembly. And look at that, there's a control contact inside the wiper assembly. And the other side of that goes to ground. It turns out the wiper motor rotation drives a cam switch that switches the pump ground on and off. How stupid! And here's the section we're working with again. This shows the power coming directly from the ignition switch.
So there's a little 2-wire plug-in connector here that goes through the firewall. The cord that comes off of that goes directly to that wiper washer pump. I'm just going to clean this connector out a bit. Kind of scrub it out with a pipe cleaner like that. It's doubled over.
It's still awfully intermittent. The washer pump should be cycling.
So I put this almost empty bottle of washer fluid down here, dropped a tube into it, hooked it up to the input on the pump, and when I jumper the pump to the battery, it sprays the windshield. Nice, smoothie, you know, a high volume spray, constant. It's not intermittent. I'll jumper it to 12 volts. The pump is working. Jumper directly to 12 volts. But then I can barely get it to work off of this circuit. So I'm going to have to look where I have it connected here. They might have damaged these conductors when they put these type of compression connectors on that cut into the insulation. So I might need to cut them back and strip them and reconnect them. So I have an idea. I'm going to unplug this from here. And jumper the pump over to there.
This eliminates the 2-wire cable from the circuit.
The one that's inside there is positive. I'm positive. the pin here will be negative. The socket is going to be positive. I've got to insert that in and clamp it in there. All right.
It's still very intermittent. The washer pump should be running more. It's practically not running at all.
Well, it doesn't work there either, so I'm thinking it must be the switch. The ground wire to the engine block. Let's see how that works. All right, the ignition key is still on. Wipers on.
And nothing. I went around in circles for a while, checking and rechecking things that worked, then didn't work. Then I took my head out and started using my VOM instead of that test light.
I don't get it. So I'm going to go ahead and try it with the voltmeter. We'll see if the camera can read this.
This is the voltage through the 2-wire harness cable.
I'm reading 10 volts. I pulled that 2-pin connector again, disconnected it. Let's see what the voltage is coming out of there as opposed to down there. It's up by the firewall.
This is the voltage bypassing the 2-wire cable. $11.5 volts at the firewall.
So I do believe right now that we're losing voltage in this wire. This is the cable that plugs in by the firewall with the 2-pin connector. So time to get a little drastic. I'm going to cut this and we'll see if it has the 11.5 volts here now. I'll cut that and strip the end. I'll hook the meter on, whoops, hook the meter on that freshly stripped piece of wire there on there. I plugged that connector back in, so I should be getting the voltage over here now that I had over there. And if I don't, there's more of a problem in that either that connector, that 2-pin connector, or the wire coming over. Let's give it a test. Unfortunately, I can't see it over there, so I'll have to do it like this. Okay, 11.5 volts.
This is now the voltage through the 2-wire cable. I had been reading low voltage through that original equipment connector. I cut off the end of the wire.
So what we saw on that wiring diagram, where the ground is actually switched, it's pulsed by the wiper motor. I mean, the Ford engineers in the 1960s might have been flower children. Maybe they weren't actually high when they designed that, but it's just goofy. So I'm going to ground the motor directly here under the mounting screw. That pulsing coming out of the wiper motor is just one more point of failure, possibly. One more point of possible failure. And I know this is not the original motor because the holes don't line up. So on one side the hole is in the bracket, and on the other side the screw is actually on that side of the bracket and just holding down the edge. But that's fine, I don't care, as long as it works. And I'll have a good ground here. If I can get this started. It started. So I'm going to connect this 11.5 volt wire, should be 12, with a crimp butt connector. That'll work for now. And it'll be good enough for now. Okay, let's give it a test. Success. Okay, so this is working now. All I need is a reservoir for this. This gallon can would actually work. Maybe I'll just bungee it in there, but I think I'd rather get a reservoir. Now these bag reservoirs, these things, they're available exactly like this. They look original, but they're $27, and I'm not paying $27 for a plastic bag. There's a 1967-68 Ford Mustang reservoir that I think I'm going to mount right in here. Unfortunately, that's like $31, but it's better than that stupid bag, so that's what I'm going to do. Unless I can find something else. So this is temporarily mounted, but this is that washer fluid reservoir for a 1967 Mustang. I'm going to mount it better. I just didn't have the heart to take this bracket off of here yet, but I'm going to have to remove that bracket so this can sit flat, and put a couple bolts through there to hold it. On the bottom here, it's pretty cobbled together to make everything fit. That is to make all the tubing fit, and that's working. And that old pump that was on there, after a couple of weeks, it gave up the ghost. It burned out. I mean, it wouldn't run at all, no matter what I did. So I replaced it with this little cheapo washer pump from Amazon, and it's working great. Looks great.
There's a cascaded effect coming up when I get into the rear brakes and differential maintenance on this car. There's a nasty surprise in the next Mustang video, forcing a surprising decision on the next Man About Home. Thank you for watching. Please take a moment to like and subscribe.